Good afternoon, dragons. Welcome back to math class. So yesterday in math, we did a video about find the part with fractions, decimals, and percents studies. We filled out these sections here. And I used an analogy with a box of crackers that you're sharing with your sibling. And at that point, we were saying how many crackers of the box would they get? So if you were going to share 35% of a box of 60 crackers, what would they get? And we tried benchmark percents, percent bar, which is basically equivalent to a double number line. And we did proportion, which is a extended version of the equation. All of that was to correspond with your GPS review packet. I know with percents, the temptation to use this guy is high. Please don't. I've done them all by hand. I've been checking them with the calculator because I don't have an answer key and I don't want to get anything wrong for you. But I have taken extensive notes doing this answer key for you. So I will be posting these on the Weebly website so that you can see what all the answers are for day one. Now we are scooting ahead to day two's video. And I know for some of you, you feel like I'm behind, but that's because teachers had a day off that students didn't anticipate. So, I am on day two, finding the whole. They have two strategies. They use the double number line, which to me is equivalent to the percent bar. They also use equivalent ratios, which is fine. You're making equivalent ratios on a double number line or percent bar anyway, so it's kind of all the same. Proportions are also equivalent ratios. So any way you look at it, you are creating equivalent ratios. I have another foldable for you today. It almost looks identical to this foldable. I'll post a printable version for you. If you're unable to print it, that's totally fine. Get creative. Just pulled mine right off the printer. I am fortunate to have a good printer that I used during my master's degree. So I'm good with the printer situation. If you're not, I'm trying to make it so you could still handwrite the notes and get what you need. So to be with me, I am on page 66. Find the whole flippable. We're going to break it down exactly the same way we did find the part. And then this flippable will associate with the day two activities. They word it a little different than I do. They're like 10% of blank equals 6. Traditionally, it would be 6 is 10% of what number? So they write it a little backwards from what I have seen as the customary way to write it in other textbooks. Which is fine. They're probably taking this from a particular textbook. I just don't know which one. I'm going to get rolling with our foldable here. I always try to fold it on the line first, so I can fold it back and get it in the right place. Excuse me. I'm a little out of breath. I've been running up and down the stairs. We got the baby home. Trying to take care of everybody. I'm sure you're going through the exact same thing. Everybody's home trying to work and do their schoolwork. And keep everybody entertained. And I know out your way in Durham, things are getting a little more intense with the stay-at-home order that's about to be in effect. I'm in Orange County. They haven't done that yet, but I'm sure we are right around the corner. Okay, got my markers. Going to label the outside of my foldable here. And yesterday, when I left you, I hadn't glued or cut, but I ended up gluing and cutting, so it's all finished there. So I'm hoping that the videos are helpful for you, not only mathematically, but that you're able to do your work independently, and that your parents can continue to work from home as they need to too, so they can bring home a paycheck, because we're all in the same boat trying to get by. And I know how hard it is to work from home and try to watch children So I will try to make these videos as independent for you as possible. If you haven't already seen some updates online, I'm going to hold Zoom conferencing every day from 2:30 to 3:30. It's optional. It's only for questions. It'll be best for me to pre-record all our lessons because then people can watch it when they can get their hands on their device, especially if they're sharing a device. Alright, I have a pretty cover. Let's see what we got inside. Alright, so I made this up last year. I'll be able to post this online because I created it, but it's not copyrighted. This time we are finding the whole. Today I remembered my highlighters, unlike yesterday where I did not. We're going to find the whole, which means basically how many crackers were in the box originally. So you don't know how many were. They're going to give you how much you sectioned out, how much percent that was, and then you're kind of working backwards. You're unraveling the mystery. When you do this, when you're finding the whole, when you do any of these problems, I want you to find the part, the whole, and the percent within the problem first. If you can identify who you know and who you need, that's half the battle. Alright, so I'm going to look for the part, the whole, and the percent within my word problem. 8 is 20% of what number? 8 is 20% of what number? 8 is the part. I know it's the part because they say 8 is 20%. 20% isn't the whole thing. Had they said 8 is 100%, that would be the whole thing, but this is not. This is not the case. So we've got 20% is obviously the percent. That's probably too far for you to read. Let me zoom in on this for you. There we go. That's got to be better. Okay, 8 is your part, because it says you only have 20%, and that is less than 100. Of what number? The what number, this guy, that represents the whole. Like how many crackers were in the box before you started divvying it up. So you're looking for the whole. Your thought bubble here. What are you hunting for? What are you solving for? If you said I am solving for the whole, you are correct. Deep thoughts. I am solving for the whole. When I mean whole amount. Alright, let's do it with benchmark percents. Yesterday I used green and pink, so I'm going to be consistent for you. So they give us some information already. And remember, when you do benchmark percents, you can make a list. It's very convenient. You do percent on one side, an amount on the other side. And they gave us some information which was super convenient. They said 8 is 20%. 8 is 20%. Well, I am aiming to get to 100% because I want to know the whole amount. So I'm trying to get way down here to 100%. I want to know what goes here. So I just need to piece it together until I get to 100%. And that looks like this. Another 20 would make 40%. Another 20 would make 60%. Another 20 would make 80%. Another 20 would make 100%. Of course, I could have done something like 20% times 5 and 8 times 5. And I know in my head 8 times 5 is 40. But I wanted to show you all the steps here. So 8, 8, 8, 8 and 8. There we go. We have 40. 40 is our happy answer. Yay! Happy 40. So, to shortcut that, probably in your workbook, your work packet, I would look at something like 20% is 8, and I want to get to 100%. And to do that, I'd have to multiply 20% by 5. So I want to multiply 8 by 5. And that'll also get me 40. So that's just like a short version to get to the same thing. Either way, you're using benchmark percents, and benchmark percents are awesome for mental math. Next, we're going to use a percent bar. Draw me a decent sized rectangle. This part of my rectangle is going to represent the amount. This part of my rectangle is going to represent the percent. If I were to use one entire rectangle in this scenario, that would be 100%. And they've already told us to cut it up into 20%. Well, how many 20% fit into 100? If you said 5, you were correct. Good job. So we need to chop up this percent bar into 5 equal parts to the best of our human ability. All right, so let me see. Not bad. Okay. So that means at here, I'm at 20%. And then here, I'm at 40%. Here, I'm at 60%. And here, I'm at 80%. Each one of these blocks is worth 8. Because 8 is 20%. They told us that in the original problem. That was the given information. So we already know that this much of the block is worth 8. And all the other blocks are intended to be the same size, so they are also all equal to 8. So, you have 8 times 5, you have 40. You could also scale this up, and there comes in your equivalent ratios, which is the DPS packet says use an equivalent ratio table. But this has the numbers in it, even though we haven't organized it in a table format. You could go from 20% to 100% by multiplying by what? By 5. And at 20%, we knew it was worth 8. So I am 8 to 20%. If I scale that up in exactly the same fashion, times 5, I end up with the value of x equals 40. The mystery value, the whole. So that's the whole amount. That's the whole bar. In our cracker analogy, that would mean that there were 40 crackers in the box. You gave your sibling 20% of the box. 20% was only 8 crackers. How much was in the box originally? 40 crackers. This swoopy swoop situation that's called scaling up. One last thing to do is the proportion method. So let me zoom out again so we can make sure we're catching all our important vocabulary. We just did benchmark percent, which you can do as a list. And then you can add up the parts of the list. But then I had a short version with some multiplication. You can do a percent bar. The percent bar is like a double number line. And within your percent bar, you do have equivalent ratios. Contains equivalent ratios. Lastly, we're going to do the proportion, which is an equation that states that two ratios are equal. I know the DPS packet uses the equation method, but they present it slightly different. Okay. So with a proportion, you always want to put what you know, and perhaps put a variable for what you don't know. And you've already studied enough about expressions and equations to know what a variable is. So I like to set it up. Let's go with this here. And if you forget where things go, I always like to put that straight up first. This is where your part lives. This is where your whole lives. This is where your percent number lives, and this is always 100. Unless under some unusual circumstance they ask you to scale up, we should be saying that this is 100. Now in this scenario, we don't know what the whole is. That is the unknown. They did tell us some given information. They said that 8 is 20%. Now, don't put a percent symbol because that's like saying 20% out of 100. We're saying 20 out of 100. 8 over x is the same as 20 out of 100. And this one was a little trickier because 20 and 8 are not so compatible. 8 is not a factor of 20. It's much easier to scale this one down before you scale it up. So I can scale this down, and I'm thinking if I divide this by 5, I can get a number here that's 4. I like 4 because 4 is a factor of 8, which will allow me to scale up after I've scaled down. Here we go. So 20 divided by 5 equals 4. I got to continue to scale down here. 100 divided by 5 is 20. I have made an equivalent ratio here. The strategy I used in order to create an equivalent ratio is I scaled down. But I'm not there yet. I'm solving for x. We're going to have to now scale up. So traveling from 4 to 8, you ask yourself, 4 times what gets you 8? 4 times 2. Do the same here. 20 times 2. And 20 times 2 will get you the end result. They'll get you the whole, or the value for x, which is 40. So here you scale up. And 8 over 40 is an equivalent ratio to 20 over 100, which is an equivalent ratio to 4 over 20. They're all equivalent. You could stick this in a table. You would see a pattern. I imagine if we brought it down, it'd be 2/10. If we brought that down, probably 1/5. Trying to think about this, just mental math. But they're all equivalent ratios. So hopefully this is enough information to work or finish day 2 if you haven't already. I know some of you have been a little bored. You've skipped ahead of me. That's fine. Day 2 is not as labor intensive as day 1 was. Day 1 had a lot of problems. Day 2 is not so bad. Please do this by hand. Do not shortcut it with a calculator. I will check it with a calculator for you, and I will post the answers online. After you're all finished, you can go ahead and glue it in. I'm going to take care of that right now with you. Finally found some glue. Did not have glue yesterday. If you do have a member of the family going out today, maybe ask for a couple supplies you might need in order to work at home for the school year. Would not be a bad idea. I'm going to ask for some supplies today. Only one person in my household leaves the house, so I'm going to make a list of the things I need. Me and baby are staying safe indoors. Voila, c'est fini. We finished page 66. Excellent work, Dragons. Hope to see some of you today at 2:30. I'll be posting more videos today and tomorrow so that you'll be prepared to work on page 3 of the packet. Thank you.